situation we're getting into right now is all about erectile dysfunction, otherwise known as ED. And guess what? Miami's got the highest rates of ED in the States. You heard right. The nation's #1 epicenter for erectile dysfunction is right here in the 305. Now, everybody asks me, why is ED so big in Miami? And I usually answer with my smart ass, maybe it has something to do with all these 70-year-old men dating 25-year-old women. I'm not saying that they don't have a problem, but I don't think they can perform like a 25-year-old no matter what kind of drugs you've taken. They definitely can't do it like they did back in their heyday. But for real, when I discuss this with a urologist colleague at the medical school, University of Miami, where my day job exists, he told me that men's perceptions of erectile dysfunction have really changed in recent years. He said they have one sexual experience where they can't get an erection on demand, and then they think they have ED, right? For those patients, this doctor said he often prescribes a super low dose of ED medication like Viagra or Cialis, but the dose is usually too low to really make significant changes. But his patients really benefit from the placebo effect. They think they have help getting erect, and then they get erections more easily. Now, here's what you need to know about ED. This is a rapidly growing problem, people. Now today, 1 in 5 men has ED, and that number increases as our population ages, right? Old people are not dying anymore. They're just living long and longer. Now, overall, 30 million men right now, right here, experience ED, and it's expected to double by 2025. This is probably because people are living so much longer, like I just said. And get this, young men, and when I say young, I mean young men under 40 years old, they are experiencing ED more often than ever. One recent study found that 25% of new cases of erectile dysfunction occur in men under 40. That's a quarter of the new cases of erectile dysfunction. What? They are in men under 40 years old. And half of these men surveyed had, what do we call? Severe erectile dysfunction. They didn't just have regular ED where they couldn't get it up sometimes. They had severe ED where they couldn't get up no times. What? You know what I'm saying? You know how they be trying to say 40 is the new 30. And of course, I know y'all looking at me and you hearing me and you like, well, Dr. Sonjia is over 40. 40 is definitely the new 30. But let me tell you, this erectile dysfunction, 40 is definitely not the new 30. Well, maybe not for these guys, right? So what causes erectile dysfunction in men? You know what? A history of diabetes, obesity, and smoking definitely increases the odds for erectile dysfunction. And those with diabetes may experience the problem as much as 10 to 15 years earlier than men without diabetes. You better watch your sugar, baby. Now, erectile dysfunction usually has something physical behind it, particularly in older men, but psychological factors can be a major contributor in many cases of ED. Experts say stress, depression, poor self-esteem, and performance anxiety can short-circuit the process that leads to an erection. Now, ED can also be a side effect of medication, including certain blood pressure, drugs, antidepressants, and tranquilizers. In older men, it's decreased blood flow, typically because vessels that supply blood to the penis have narrowed. And this is often what causes erectile dysfunction for the older guys. But in younger men, you know what? Emotional issues are more commonly the root of erectile dysfunction. Boom. These younger guys, you know what? They sensitive nowadays. They got emotional issues. And that's why they can't get it up, girl. Now, some research suggests avid cyclists also suffer more ED than other athletes. So let me tell you, if you got a man who's always in that spin class, you may want to tell him to figure out another way to burn off that sweat, right? He got to figure out another way to get his cardio in. The trouble lies in the shape of some of these bicycle seats. They put pressure on the perineum. And the perineum, you know what that is? That's that sweet spot right between your reproductive organs, your testicles, and your anus. That sweet spot, everybody likes a little stimulation on the perineum, also called the taint, for those of you who are not using proper sex education terms. Now, this is the area, again, right between the anus and the scrotum, and it contains arteries and nerves that are vital to sexual arousal. And I know we're talking about men and erectile dysfunction, but I just want to remind you that this taint area, this area is also very stimulating for women. So don't just try to stimulate men there, okay? Now, back to erectile dysfunction. One study suggests ED is a strong predictor of heart attack, stroke, and death from cardiovascular disease. All men diagnosed with ED should be evaluated for heart disease, right? Okay, you heard me? All men who have been diagnosed with erectile dysfunction should be evaluated for cardiovascular disease. And of course, this definitely does not mean that every man with ED will develop heart disease or that every man with heart disease has ED. But you should definitely be aware of that link and take the right precautions to keep yourself healthy, boo. Now, how do you know if you need ED treatment? Sleep, sleep, sleep. If you are getting enough sleep at night, that's like 6 to 8 hours, okay? The same thing you learned when you're a kid. If you're getting enough sleep at night and you wake up hard, you ain't got ED, boo. Nuh-uh. If you're waking up and you got a hearty right when you wake up, you know, that sunrise erection, you do not have some sort of erectile dysfunction problem. But the thing is, you need to be getting enough sleep regularly to know that. Okay? Because if you don't get enough sleep, that can definitely contribute to erectile dysfunction issues. Okay? Another thing that you need to do is think about your diet, right? If you're eating a whole bunch of crap that's clogging your arteries and not helping your blood like reach optimal circulation, and you're not going to have great erectile functioning. I'm going to be honest with you. Your diet really has to be clean in order to have optimal penile functioning. Duh. But you should also know that there's some nutritional supplements that you can consider before you go on to medications. For example, pomegranate and watermelon. Now, the citrulline in watermelon has really been shown to enhance erectile functioning. A long time ago, a lot of scientists just thought the citrulline was in the skin, the hard part of the watermelon. But recent studies have found that there's a lot of citrulline in the fleshy part that we love to eat in watermelon. So, the more citrulline that you get into your system, this can act like a natural Viagra. It can increase your blood circulation, which increases your erectile functioning, right? And I know I'm going to make me a racial joke, but by now you should know Dr. Sonjia is black, okay? So, you know, black men, watermelon, right? Once you go black, you don't go back. Booyah, you got that right. Maybe black men have just been taking a lot of citrulline inside, and you know, men of other persuasions, you might want to consider changing your diet to include a little watermelon. Another thing that helps is pomegranates. Pomegranates, yes, palm, those shakes palm that are so good, or the drink, whatever. They're not a sponsor on this show, so I don't have to get it correct. But pomegranate seeds can actually really help improve erectile functioning. And you know what happens if you make a pomegranate and a watermelon shake? Booyah! Let me tell you what happens, because I made one for my husband not too long ago. As a surprise, I gave him a morning healthy shake. It was like, here, baby, love you. Mwah. He called me at noon, and you know what he said? What'd you give me in that shake? Damn it. Thank God his assistant is like an 85-year-old woman. He was like, what is going on? Is something's happening here? And I'm like, oh, did you enjoy that shake? You know me, Dr. Sonjia, I always want to make sure things work before I give you any advice. So these are some natural things to consider. But a side note is that these things also make women horny. So you're trying to, you know, help your man with erectile dysfunction. Don't take some of the same stuff in, because you're just going to get hornier while his penis has poor performance, okay? And I know this for a fact because one of my girlfriends, she's always on a diet and she's always making new creative things. And she was just eating all these watermelon and pomegranate cakes for her diet thing. She's like, oh no, they're non-fat and they're just high protein, no carbs, whatever. But she always wanted sex. And when I told her about the pomegranate and watermelon for erectile dysfunction, she was like, oh my God, I gotta stop eating this shit, okay? She was like, she doesn't even like her neighbor, but he started looking cute lately, you know? She almost did that, okay? Fortunately, we got an intervention going and she stopped eating that. Now, exercise. Remember, anything that you do that improves your circulation is going to improve your erectile functioning. So if you work out and you exercise, that is going to improve your blood circulation, which means it's also going to improve your erectile functioning. So you need to get on that treadmill. You need to get into that exercise class. You know what I'm saying? Anything that improves your fitness is going to improve your ability to get hard. Booyah. And that's why studies show men who exercise regularly, what? They have a way lower risk of erectile dysfunction. This makes total sense. If you got a hard time walking, you're definitely going to have a hard time having sex, right? This is all physical activity, people. And you know what I'm about to say? Smoking. Yes, smoking. Bad for erectile functioning. So if you're smoking and you got ED, you need to figure out which is more important to you. And if you drink too much, okay, a little bit of drinking, you know, that can ease you up. It can make you a little more fluid. It can make things flow a little bit better. But if you're drinking too much, you know what that's going to do to your penis? It's not going to make it function right. And the same with drugs. Boom, bad. Too many drugs, you're feeling all good. And in Miami, we see a lot of this. You see a lot of people, they're whipping out some drugs in the middle of a club, in the middle of the night, and then they try to take the fly girl home, and guess what? They can't even perform by the time it's time to get home. And another thing you need to think about before you go see the doctor is maybe, if you're working on all these other areas that we just discussed, maybe you could just get a cock ring, right? A cock ring it's a